All right, this is it, man. Live from the Tracking Room podcast, episode 1. Fuck, man. Why is it called Live from the Tracking Room? I don't know. The true format of this podcast has yet to be revealed. But time waits for no man. You know, I got to get going now. It'll change up here, hopefully, in the future. Right now, this is just me, David Chastain, your host. Right now, I'm in my car. I'm outside the laundromat. I just got done with episode 1. Thought I'd, try a little intro, figure it out. I don't know how we'll do it, but you'll find out. Talking about doing the laundry, I did get it done. It's in the dryer right now. We're waiting on it. But yeah, man, this is episode 1. Hopefully we do a lot of cool things with the podcast, live from the Tracking Room. Hopefully soon we'll be in the studio. We'll have video, we'll have YouTube, all that shit going on. So stay tuned, guys. Listen to episode 1. Here we go. Thank you.
I've been trying to be what you want me to. Give me something I can sing along to. I can sing along to.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first I guess it wouldn't be annual. That maybe would mean I only do it once a year. The first edition of the Live from the Tracking Room podcast. This is a test. It's really number 1. This is like the test run. This is can I talk alone by myself? Hopefully we'll get some guests in here. But I sat down to do some talking points for the podcast, and my favorite pen's out of ink. So that's the first thing I came up with, man. Been rocking with this pen for a while. This, what is it? It's a Toll pen, ballpoint, bruh, you know? But I've been writing with this pen for a long time. I'm getting a little emotional today, thinking, I don't know, I've never refilled a pen before, but this might be the first go. I like this shit a lot, man. I don't want to lose it. But, I got a different pen, no worries. They grow on trees, I guess, so I got me another one. I don't know, I guess the thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is, the direction of life, man. What's going on, you know? A lot of hysteria in people's lives right now. I don't know if I feel 100% connected to other people right now, but in this 2018, I guess it's September 6th, 2018 today, it's easy to feel connected to other people without trying, I think. I think everybody thinks they're connected right now, even if you maybe aren't. Maybe if you're just on social media, maybe if you're just talking to the people you work with, the same people you see all the time. Yeah, I think everybody feels pretty connected to what's going on right now, connected to the world. But maybe we're not, you know? Maybe not a lot of people are. And back to that word hysteria, you know? I think a lot of people are spun up when they feel like they're aware, when they feel like they know what's going on or they're connected to others. Maybe they're just connected to some kind of hysteria that we're working with right now. A lot of the stuff gets spun up in the news, a lot of like just random nonsense. So, you know, something I was thinking about today is getting off social media. You know, it's a huge tool for everybody, but we all get stuck thinking about the same stupid bullshit all the time that nobody really cares about, I don't think. Stuff that if we were left to our own devices, I don't think we choose to care about it. Like, I hate to be another guy talking about it, but this Kaepernick stuff never seems to get out of the news. 2 years now, starting football season again. Today, I think Thursday, I think the Falcons are playing. And it just seems like this is something the news machine is doing to, I don't know, they found out it holds people's attention and that people will get all back to that word hysteria. It kind of creates a hysteria, like some kind of tornado. Everybody gets sucked into it and people can't quit talking about it, even if they probably wouldn't care about it if it wasn't for all this social media, like the hysteria that everybody's caring about it for some reason. But that's really all I think about it. I don't know. The guy, I think it's good that Nike's paying him. I think it's good. Football's short. Football's short for everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. Even the greats, Hall of Fame, if you play for years and years and years, it's still a short career, really. And there's no shortage of stories about football players that, weren't able to make out on their money very well, and that they spent their time at school playing sports, and that they don't come out with a great career plan after football. So to see a guy that got his career kind of taken away from him and he's still pretty able, it's nice to see he's still out there making money. I don't want to see anybody poor, So on that end of things, that's cool. Kaepernick making money, that's fine. Other than that, I really don't care, I care about the issues, but I think that's getting taken care of by you look around, you look at the media, you look at commercials now, especially every time I watch a commercial, I try to look at who they cast, what is the cast of this commercial made out of? And in the last 2 years, since all this has been going on, I think you see a lot more people of color, a lot more, women, you've seen the Hollywood stuff go down, like changing the guard and all these different fashions. So I think it's being effective. But, other than that, I really just don't care to let it take up my life, because back to what I was talking about at the beginning, everybody's, I think, should be focused in their life, You got to have focus in your life. If you want to succeed, if you care about succeeding for yourself, you can't get wrapped up in what everybody else is doing. That doesn't mean you can't be an activist and you can't care about issues, but you do kind of got to stay in your own lane. And if you wouldn't be somebody, if your lane is to become an activist maybe, and you want to, that's all fine. Get out there and do it and be aware and be a part of the conversation. But for me to be wrapped up in the hysteria right now, I know just feels wrong. It makes me feel uncomfortable. All the social media and everybody's extreme use of their voice for activism on social media. It's not the world. First of all, if you're gonna, I'm not one to criticize people's activism or using their voice, but it'd be better placed in the real world and not social media, and getting back to just myself, that's a lot of what's going on in the social media realm right now. A lot of the social media, everybody's posts, I feel like everything I see is just about some kind of activism, something about somebody's done something wrong to somebody else, or we need to change this about this. And people don't really get on social media. I remember in 2010, the things I would post on social media were like, man, I love Back to the Future, man, that Back to the Future trilogy was my jam. Or I'd be like, David Chastain is feeling sick today, because I had the flu. But it's not like today it's like, let me write this article about how I feel about, police brutality, which is, it's a forum, and that's what it's for. But for me, I think I got to take a step back from all that. I think I got to start to hone in on, I'm no celebrity. A lot of people on these podcasts, they'll talk, and they already got things going on. They got, meetings every day, and they got their podcast to worry about, and the spots, and they're getting acting gigs and all this. But, me, I'm just trying to get into that. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing, and it's such a huge distraction right now. Just the hysteria, not the issues, not the events, not the Kaepernick and the, hey, let's do right by this, or Flint, Michigan. It's nothing like that. It's like the hysteria, it's the tornado, It's not the actual event. It's the, that you can't get out of thinking about it or even just checking the social media. It's really more than just, it takes up so much brain space and so much physical time, really, that I'm finding myself, I have to suck myself away from it, to the point right now where I couldn't get off social media today, to the point I was I got to sit down and write some goals. I got that pen out and it didn't work. And then I'm I'll just maybe I'll go for number one on the podcast, because I just got to start thinking about something else. I got to get it out, I got to start being productive. I don't know. I think that's everybody, though, I know I said I'm not trying to think about the media, but something I couldn't help, something that everybody seems to care about right now is that Supreme Court Justice nominee, that Kavanaugh. And I got to tell you, I don't know anything about it, really. I know that the dude that stepped down was somehow related to Trump in a legal sense, like that his son, the Supreme Court justice that just stepped down, his son is like one of Trump's lawyers, or was his lawyer, or works in a firm where Trump's lawyer works, or something like that. So this new judge, everybody's freaking out because it's gonna, I think, 5 conservative point judges on out of 9, I think is what it is, and everybody's nervous about overturning Roe v. Wade and all this. So they've been having this hearing to have him confirmed the past couple days, I guess, and I've been watching a couple of those videos. Everybody's all up in arms about the guy, and it seems like everybody's using isolated clips. Like I saw, I happened to watch it, but they were streaming it on YouTube, the C-SPAN was, and I watched a whole bunch of it, and I kept asking myself why, because it was the most boring shit ever, and I guess I kept missing all the good stuff. But there was, at the end of the first day, the dude stood up, and somebody came to go shake his hand, and it seemed like the guy was being a little confrontational, and Kavanaugh turns and walks away, and it turned out to be the father of one of the victims of the Parkland shooting. His daughter was murdered and by the shooter in Parkland. And the dude turned it, and he didn't shake his hand, and everybody's like, "Well, he could have shaken. What a deplorable dude. He didn't shake." Well, again, man, I think it's all a product. I think if you saw that stuff on your own without anybody telling you how to think, or if, like, and I hate being an accuser of anything, but like, I think of people's awareness. I think this is really shows where people's awareness level is overall. Because, I mean, I try to be aware, you know. I don't try to be overconfident. I try to be humble. But I try to think I carry a good level of awareness. Try to be aware of myself, aware of things around me. I watched a clip of the dude not shaking the guy's hand, and I think, like, oh, the guy pauses, he looks at him, he realizes there's some kind of confrontational thing going on, and everything is about media, news, and making a point and raising a voice. And there were also people throughout the day, all day long, just showing up and screaming and protesting in the middle of the hearing, you know. So, like, I'm sure everybody, he'd been in there for hours, and people, yeah. And I got to preface this, I'm no kind of Republican or anything. I'm way more on the left of things. But the dude was just probably like, I don't know what's going on, and he has a team of security moving in, and he doesn't end up shaking the guy's hand. So whatever, really. I mean, people like, oh, he could have, but he didn't know, and there's no way to know that that's the situation, that he's on the spot to make some media obligation to shake the guy's hand. If he would have shaken the guy's hand, nobody would have talked about it at all. Nobody would have said anything at all about anything. They wouldn't have used it as a thing like, oh, look at what a good guy he is because he shook the guy's hand. It's only a thing in our world right now because he didn't, and it can be used to make him look bad, you know, and it makes me kind of ashamed. Well, the point I'm trying to get at is, man, lately people are just using whatever ammunition they can against anybody for anything, and their awareness is so low. They're just not thinking about what is really happening, that was an event in a moment of time in human beings' lives, and it just really doesn't matter, you know, that it's not significant of anything, or that he's going to be able to serve. If anything, these past 2 days of seeing people on the left's reaction to the hearings, it makes me, you know, like, oh, you guys are just full of shit, you know, like, there's nothing wrong with the guy. I've watched a whole bunch of the hearing, and I've gone back and watched long clips of the isolated events people are talking about, and the guy doesn't look bad. He's not making himself look bad. If he shows me anything, it's like how people in politics are just fucking assholes, you know, like that when it doesn't come to their side of things, like they want to do anything to discredit you. They want to do anything to make you look bad. And the fucked up thing is that we spent 8 years seeing it with Obama, right? Like the obstructionists on the right, like everybody just filibustering the shit out of the sessions in Congress, and like they wouldn't let anything get done, and all this, not a lot of progress got done in 8 years. But now we're seeing on the other hand, now the right's got the control, right? And I really don't want to talk about politics this much, but the people on the left are the obstructionists now, and Trump says that a lot. He'll say the obstructionist left, you know? And you don't want to think that, but you watch, and it's like, well, they don't have the power and the control right now, and they don't want to give up progress to the right for them to just do what they want to do. So they do become obstructionists in a way. Maybe you don't want to call it that, but that is what it is. And I saw that a lot in these last 2 days. I think Harris, Congresswoman Harris, there was a big to-do with her. She was asking Kavanaugh if he's ever talked about the Mueller investigation, and he used to work with Mueller in an administration. I think he worked for the government with Mueller. He's a judge, and he used to work with Mueller, and they're trying to make him look like maybe he has connections to Trump's Trump's personal lawyer's law firm, that maybe he spoke about the case, about the Mueller investigation. So what they're trying to do is they're just trying to me, she's trying to make it look like, this Congresswoman Harris, that the new nominee somehow, because the old nominee stepped down because his son's involved with the law firm, that the new nominee is probably in bed with all those guys, and that Trump would like to have a guy from that circle even though he has no control in the Supreme Court, and it's just part of the system of checks and balances, that he'll have a voice maybe that he can lean on, or maybe he can talk to him, or maybe the thing is they're trying to show that there would be meetings or people would talk about things and it wouldn't be fair and it wouldn't be separate or whatever. I don't know what they're trying to do, but if you watch the long clip of Harris kind of asking her questions to Kavanaugh, she looked like a total bitch. I'm not going to lie, man. And I don't like to say that about ladies, but man, the dude seemed like he was trying to answer her questions, and she was being insulting. She was saying that, well, I just asked the question. I'm surprised that you can't remember, and blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, man, it was so rude, Like, I don't know. That's not really a point. I don't know fucking anything about politics right now. Like, I've tuned so far out of it since the election even started, before he was even elected. He who shall not be named, I guess. They talk about him like he's goddamn Baltimore. But yeah, I don't know. I really don't know much about politics, really. All I know is that it's a big thing in the news right now, this whole thing with the hearing with the new justice, and everybody seems to want to care about it. And because of that, when that kind of stuff goes on, like I'm talking about the hysteria, I guess maybe that's the theme of the podcast today. When people won't care so much, I try to know, I try to invest some kind of knowledge, invest some attention in it, and figure out what's going on. Because if people care about it, maybe it's important. And lately, in the past 2 years, like every time I've invested my time in trying to figure, almost none of the time has it mattered. None of these issues really matter, Maybe the Kaepernick thing with, like, there wasn't, in 2015, maybe before 2016, there wasn't a ton of social awareness stuff going on. It seemed like right around the Trump election, when it seemed possible that he was going to be the president, or when Hillary might be the president, it was just that, like, activism became it just blew up, maybe with the police brutality videos in Flint, Michigan situation, like all this stuff. Maybe it has to do with the events surrounding, but it's just, activism has exploded, and but it hasn't exploded in real activism. I mean, you see real events and real marches and people going out, but it's really the day-to-day lives, and we choose to participate in social media so much that it really does affect our day-to-day lives, this dialogue. And it's but the dialogue isn't taking place in reality. It's taking place in this digital forum. So nothing's really getting resolved. Nobody's speaking face to face. You're removed from speaking like a human to each other. You like, basically, if you spoke to each other like you speak to each other on social media, you'd be screaming insults into each other's faces. And that's not how anybody speaks. I mean, very few people. No, people dictate themselves with a lot more respect in person than they do online. But I think you're also seeing the effect when people do meet up in person and they do get there. Sometimes it's really aggressive right now, and I think it's because maybe there's so much anticipation and hype built up to the moment, and there's like tension, and they're like, this is the time we're going to do the thing that we said we were going to do. And then they, like this Kavanaugh thing, I mean, you go about so many people disrupting the session and scream, and it's not a session. I don't know if people understand what's going on. It's not a vote. They're not having a vote, they're not, and these people interrupting the session, they're really not going to change anybody's minds. Everybody has to quit speaking, and they have to there's so much security in there, man. You look, it's like they had to clear out all the mall security in 30 miles to get to, like, staff these courtrooms. These security dudes look like bums, you know? But they had to stop the hearing, or I guess it's not a hearing. I'm not exact. I guess it's a hearing. I'm not sure what it is, actually. But they're not voting on anything. They're just talking. So they got to stop talking, and it makes the meeting longer, and it's probably hard to carry on points of conversation, and I don't know. I don't want to discourage anybody's activism, but it seems like a lot of the stuff going on right now is just ill-placed and not, I don't mean to sound like some fucking asshole. It's like you care about the wrong things or something, but I think people got to find the right way to place their activism, to place their voice, and to not waste their time, you know? Because it's all important. It's important to use your voice and to make yourself heard, but it's important to be aware. It's important to be a part of everybody. I think you got to think about everyone. And that's really all I can say about that for now. I'm coming to a little bit of a dead end on that. Yeah, man, shit's just crazy right now. I think we all need to relax. Get out of the hysteria a little bit, not be so crazy and think everyone's against you. And that tension is subliminal, man. It's I think it affects you more when you're alone, and it's your personal day and your mind, and you're on your own out there. And I think it affects you more in those moments than the moments when you're on social media and maybe you think you're connected and you think you're wired in, but you're really still alone and you're using your time, and that's not our reality, you know? If you want to make your reality to be an activist, maybe get out there and be an activist. Be around people. Go volunteer at a fucking place, you know, a physical place where there's people and there's desks and they're working towards something, you know? Maybe I think that's what we need more of if this is what it's going to be, because the hysteria, it just creates hysteria, at least for me. I don't know. But that might just be that I don't want to pay attention to it. Well, shit, man, what else? Some other shit I wrote down. Man, I don't know. I'm trying to read. Fuck, let's move there. Being educated, right? I'm talking about not being so educated. I'm trying to read. I bought a new book the other day, the Book of Five Rings, and I read the foreword, and then I promptly lost the book. I ordered it. It took fucking 2 weeks for Barnes & Noble to send me that shit, and I lost it. It seemed like it was going to be real interesting. I listened to a bunch of that audiobook. The Book of Five Rings, it's pretty much about, it's a book written by a Japanese swordsman. I think it was written in like 1540 AD, long-ass time ago. It's a book about strategy. Pretty much this dude, Miyamoto Musashi, he was a Japanese swordsman and strategist. He had his first duel at the age of 13 years old where he fucking killed this guy. I think he beat him to death with a wooden sword, like a sword. It was like a stick, you know? I forget what they call it. But then he just pretty much proceeded throughout his life to duel. And he had no teacher, really, other than his father was a samurai. And he kind of hated his father. His father was a fucking big dude. Not like a large man. But he was like... I think he was like whatever, there were like 3 provinces of Japan, and I'm talking way out of my ass on this, but he was like the head guy. I forget what they called it because I don't have the book to reference it right now, but he pretty much was the most respected warrior in this province of Japan, and he was like a big leader, kind of a political leader, and his son Musashi kind of disrespected his dad throughout his life, which wasn't something you really did in Japan, you know. You really respect your elders and the people around you, but he thought he was hot shit, and I guess he ended up being hot shit, you know. But he went out on his own. He left his home and went out to just travel and find the best swordsmen and pretty much kick their ass, go to every school that thought they were the shit and throw down, and he did. He had over 60 duels that he won undefeated. Most of them were to the death, not all of them. But he says about himself that he did not understand. He talks a lot about the way, right? Samurais and stuff, they talk about the way. And the way is just, it's like a path. You talk about, it's kind of, at different times looks like it might be a path. But it's really the way that you dictate your life is what it seems like to me. It's like pretty much every moment, who you are, what you demand out of yourself your mental attitude. A lot of people nowadays talk about positive mental attitude. I think that's something that has to do with it. But he talks about the way, and to know the way broadly. My favorite quote that I've gotten out of it so far, because I've been studying the concepts of the book for a little while, like listening to people talk about it in podcasts and listening to the audiobook a little bit. But he talks about if you know the way broadly, and you will see it in all things. And he didn't discover that, he talks about, until he was over 50 years old. Pretty much, he doesn't get his way of being from any one way of thinking, right? Because that all comes from somebody else. His thing is that if you become your teacher, it comes from within you. That's how you really know. That's how you really succeed. So he says, know the way broadly, and you will see it in all things, which a lot of people have kind of translated into be great at something, learn to be great, and you can be great at anything. If you learn the way to be great at anything, you could be great at anything. Anything you do, everything you do, which is super interesting to me. That's a concept I feel like I've known already, but to read it came from so long ago. A dude that didn't fucking know English, he couldn't write on paper. He wrote this book like in the middle of the night on scrolls is when he starts writing it. I think he tells you like it's like the hour of the tiger on the day of the lion and whatever. Like, but they tell you it's pretty much like 3:30 in the morning when he starts writing this book, and he's just alone. He's hiked up to some fucking mountain to meditate. But he doesn't live his life by just Buddhism or just the way of the samurai or just this, but he learns all these different crafts. He finds it important after the age of 50, after he's been so successful in his career as a swordsman and a strategist, that he needs to learn to do a lot of different things. He needs to read, he writes poetry, he, cooks, he still practices being a samurai and strategy, but just all these different things, all these different arts. And not only that, he becomes his own teacher in these ways. And that's how he says that you come to know the way. And the way is really, there's a way, the way I understand it is there's no one way, And people say that it's such a simple concept, it's almost hard to talk about. But it's, the way for me is not the way for you. It's my way, my path in life, the way, And I kind of have, people live their lives, and they're going to live their life. And you're going to live your path, and you're going to live, and you're going to die, and it's going to happen. And right now I'm just thinking about this concept of the way, that it's kind of consuming me, that I can't stop thinking about trying to live better. Like all the time I'm just thinking like, man, if it is the way, if it is my path, I'm never going to see what it's September 6th, 2018. It's my brother's 18th birthday, by the way, my baby brother, youngest brother. I'm never going to relive this day, ever. Never going to relive this moment where I'm saying these words right now. This afternoon where I should be going and doing my laundry before I got to go to work. I got 3 hours, but I've got this time right now, and that doesn't mean that I need to be fucking massive productive right now in every moment all the time. I would like to be, and I really want to be, but I can't. Now this is kind of molding the next topic I want to talk about. I'm being fucking lazy lately. I'm black sliding. I'm not being responsible. I have got no choice right now other than to think that I've got to fucking pick up and do it. I've got to go. Like, I've got to get to work. This concept of the way is really I just can't stop thinking about it. And I'm sorry I'm finding myself short for words here, because it's such an introspective thing. Like, you start to think about, what am I doing? Am I great at anything? Am I pursuing greatness? Like, I would like to think I am. I'm talking about my awareness, right? Earlier with other people. It's something I think about it myself a lot. My awareness, is my awareness guiding me enough? Is it enough? Am I pursuing greatness at the things that I want, which are like, I want to be a stand-up comedian. I want to do this podcast. I'd like to get into sports casting. I love sports, basketball and mixed martial arts. Those are things I'd like to do. There's all kinds of things I'd like to do. But am I pursuing them at all? One. And when I am I pursuing it to the best of my abilities? And that's not always what's important, is like doing it the best and being the best. It's just like the best that I can do right now, today, in this moment. Am I taking the necessary steps? And that's not always the case. And most of the time, honestly, it's not the case. So thinking about this, going back to Musashi and the way, it's something I really think I got to pick up, because the days of our lives, like saying through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives, I used to watch that show a lot when I was a kid. This probably a lot of y'all don't know what days of our lives are anymore if you're my age. But I just don't want to let the days pass me by, without trying to achieve excellence in those areas that I was talking about, just in my life even, talking about washing some dishes too, keeping your house clean, exercising. I want to, I don't have so much problem with the exercise thing, but see, and I think this is what it is right now, because this is a recorded record of me talking about myself, and I'm struggling to get the thoughts out that to know my way, to know the way for myself, I've got to be honest about who I am. That that I am lazy, that I don't do everything to the best of my abilities, and really maybe why I started the podcast with the hysteria thing, I feel like that's something that is in my way so much right now. Just like having my own brain space. Like I feel like my mind I'm trying to have it be consumed with this Musashi thing and this excellence thing, right? And being myself on my path. But I'm clashing with the whole everybody else and this group think that we have going on that is like not even so important to any of us. Maybe it can be important if you don't have fucking shit going on for yourself, but for me, I want to have something going on, and it's so hard to remove that bullshit from my mind right now, because I gotta work, and I gotta go to work, and I gotta be at work and make money, and while I'm there, I'm working, so I don't have so much time to focus on my personal goals. And when I'm out, I've got to find a way to fucking get off social media, dude. I don't know if it's get a different phone or delete the apps or something, but I gotta take the power back, because it's just too much. It takes up too much space in my mind. I gotta get to work, There's no time like the time that's right now. And I just gotta get to work. Because being lazy ain't no time for that, I was thinking about this yesterday. My comedy heroes right now, the people that are doing it right now, the way that I would like to be doing it, really. And this list of names, take them however you will, but like, the dudes from Fighter and the Kid, like Brian Callen and Brendan Schaub, Joe Rogan on his podcast. You got Chris D'Elia and his podcast, Bert Kreischer, Tom Segura, and Christina Pazynski. I mean, just all these people, Bill Burr, people do, Joey Diaz, just the list could go on, but the people that are just, Theo Von, definitely got to throw him in there, because he's like the one for me pretty much. They're out there doing their thing. They're doing what they want to do. They're doing it how they want to do it. And I look up to those people so much, and I think about how long it's going to take me to succeed, right? To get to their level, not even just succeed, because success today would just mean going out and killing at the open mic. That's success today. Success would be getting this podcast episode done and liking it and releasing it and having my webpage and getting my logos turned out, which they're getting designed right now, which shout out Dylan Vaughn. I appreciate you. But these guys, right, talk about how long it took them to become successful as a headliner, right? To make it to headliner status, where you're on the road and maybe you're a paid regular at the Comedy Store and you have your own dates. Like, you're fucking successful. You know, out of all those people I just named, Chris D'Elia probably got there the fastest. People say Chris D'Elia was a headliner 6 years from beginning stand-up. He was 25 when he started. By 31 years old, he's a headliner. I mean, you think about it, I'm 23. I turned 24 this year. I got a 2-year head start on where D'Elia was. Even if I do it in 6 years, if I were to be able to do it in 6 years, I would be 29 years old, right? Brian Callen, 51 years old right now. In 6 years, you know, Brian Callen's going to be fucking 60 years old. You know, let's think it more realistically. What if it takes me 15 years to become a headliner, you know? And I know that's fucking stupid bullshit to think about, and there are comedians that... maybe like some friends of mine that are open micers that hear that and like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? But I mean, those are the... I want to be fucking great at something, you know? I want to be great. I think everybody that wants to do this damn thing wants to be great. You look at the people that are doing it right now that are great, that I want to be like them, that are doing it the way I want to do it. Now, Brian Callen, I don't want to pick on that guy, but he's probably the oldest of them. He's 52. If it took me 15 years to get to where I want to be, even just to be the beginning of the start of where I want to be. 15 years, Brian Callen will be, what, 67 years old? You know, like, fuck, man. That means I'm not going to be able to be on the level of those guys, I think is what it comes out to be. Which is maybe an instant gratification way of thinking. Because for me right now, all I can think is I look at who's there right now, who's doing it the way I wish I was doing it, and I want to be there. So those are the guys I'm seeing. But by the time I get there, if I get there, which I, you know, fuck the ifs, you know, but when you get there, the landscape will be so different. The people there will be so different. I mean, it's just evidence, it's proof that you got to start now, because you can't start where they are and you can't start when they started. So you got to start where you are. And that's intimidating for me, you know? Because those are the people that I want to be like. They're the people I want to be around. The people when I think about, people talk about, don't, you know, you look at your heroes, your idols. You don't try to be friends with your heroes, or don't try to work with your heroes and think it's going to be the way you think. And it's not like that. They're only my heroes because they're successful. I mean, I like their brand of comedy. I like what they do, and I enjoy their podcast. I mean, I don't listen to Leah's podcast, but, yeah, I don't know. Those guys are just doing it. And I want to do it. And it's just going to take a while. And that's a daunting thing. That's something that's, it's hard to... If you think about it too much, it gets a little heavy. You're like, oh, fuck, those guys. What if they're fucking dead? You know, like, what if they're dead before I get there? What if I never get to work with them? What if it's like... What if comedy is such a high point, right? It's such a high point that, like, honestly, it wouldn't make me mad if it went through a low point, really. Because less people would do it, people would quit, and I wouldn't lose my will to do it, and I would keep doing it, and then maybe I'd get some fucking more spots, you know? So, I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, and then it goes through another wave, you come back up, and then now you're at the top of things. So, I feel like that's not necessarily something to worry about, you know, comedy coming to a low point, because it's still going to be there. There's always a market for comedy. But yeah, man, I don't know. Shit, I got to get to work. That's what I know. I got to go my way. I got to learn the way, and I got to know it broadly. But that just means back to my life, right? I got to get active in different things, you know? I got to get off social media. I got to stay working out and running, which I ran 6 miles yesterday. It's the most I've ever run, which was nice. 45 and a half minutes. Who's counting though, you know? I want to start training MMA, you know, and I want to start working towards this sports casting thing. I got to find, I guess what I'm going to have to do is reach out to some fucking high school or something, somebody that needs a broadcaster or a courtside commentator for their shitty high school radio. Like something that's what I'm going to have to do. And then from there, maybe use some of that, if I have some kind of tape or something, give that to like a smaller local college and then get in at the basketball there, or try to fucking do some local small fight circuits or something like that. You know, if I can show them what I do with stand-up, maybe they'll be like, oh yeah, this guy can come in and be our fucking Joe Rogan. Because, I mean, not like I'm trying to rip off other people's paths, like the podcast and the comedy thing, but I love martial arts, MMA. I've been a big fan for a long time, and I like to work in that area. At least find out if I would like to work in that area, because I'm a huge fan. I watch fights all the time. So, yeah, man, that's it. Who gives a fuck about me, though? You know, get to work on yourself, man. Shit, what else? Let's talk about books. I'm reading, going back to high school, man. I'm reading Lord of the Flies. I started reading that recently. Lord of the Flies is probably my favorite book I read. I read Hamlet in high school, which is like a play, and I enjoyed that a lot. But Lord of the Flies, I read that too, and those are the only two things I read in high school, believe it or not. But Lord of the Flies, if you're not familiar, is written by William Golding, great author. And I know that a lot of people talk about, what's the fucking book? Fucking Lost. Something Lost. Fuck me. Paradise Lost. When they talk about this book, they talk about Paradise Lost. And I know the version of Lord of the Flies I read in high school, I think it had, like, the foreword was from Paradise Lost. It's pretty much the concept of the book is the folly of man. If you don't know what folly means, get a fucking dictionary. No, it's like pretty much like the negative qualities of man are that we are fucking prone to killing each other, the power complex, like taking each other over, who people thinking they're right or wrong, that they want to have the say, that they want to feel the fucking shallowness of power, or just whatever it is, the control, you know? And so Lord of the Flies, there's these boys. They really don't make it exactly clear to you what happens at the beginning. You just kind of show up. But there were a bunch of schoolboys. You kind of think of them as British. They're probably British boys. They were on a plane. The plane wrecked on an island, and all these boys just start coming out of the woods pretty much on this island and meeting up, and they pretty much are just on the island, and they're lost. And they got to find a way to survive. They got to find leadership. They have to... You know, they're young. I think the oldest ones are they're probably no older than fucking 14, 16, and then down to real young, like 6 years old and shit. But the book just shows you, it just kind of uses children, people that wouldn't know any better. They don't know about societal constructs, it shows the folly of man, right? Back to it. And I'm no fucking literary analyst, you know. But it's just interesting. Especially right now. That's kind of why I'm reading it. Is that motherfuckers go for the throat, you know? You might think you're right, or that this person's right, or that you're doing things out of purity or innocence or for the betterment of other people, and you will just make some fucking decisions to stab a dude with a stick and murder him. Like, that's what these kids end up, they end up hunting a pig, right? Like, that's one of the big events in the book, is that they go hunting and they're trying to find food, and at one point these group of chorus boys, they fucking kill this pig with spears. And then they roast the pig over a fire. And I haven't gotten to that part again of the book. But it just, like, I remember when I read it in high school, it's a huge, like, just this primeval, tribal, primordial moment where they're, like, dancing around the fire. And the fire is coming up over, and the laughter, and they're singing like wild Indians and shit. You know, it's just like... We all possess this thing. We all possess emotion. We all possess these basic human things that don't have to be taught, that'll come to the surface one way or another, I think, depending on, like, are we going to dictate ourselves the right way? Are we going to rely on the proper leadership? Are we going to demand the right things out of ourselves? Or are we going to go back to this thing where, like, we are just animals like any other thing, and we can kill for food, or we can kill each other for control reasons, or... because we feel threatened, you know? And, I mean, shit, we're kind of seeing that right now. Not necessarily killing each other, but, like, eating each other, you know? Like, tearing each other down, setting divisions, and just having a certain emotional Man, we keep getting back to the same themes. I didn't mean for that. I guess that shows you where I'm at right now. But yeah, man, I don't know. I just started reading the book, so I don't have so much to say yet. But Lord of the Flies, great book, William Golding. If you never read it, pick it up and read it. It's just super interesting. It maybe not for you. Maybe it's kind of a hard read, but I find it interesting. I like the way that it reads, and they kind of leave you lost a little bit. You don't know exactly where you pick up, but I like that because they don't set you up with any context at all to feel anything about what's going to happen. Like, you read the characters the way you read them. You get to think about the book the way you think about it. And I remember I was in AP English. I was 16 when I read it the first time, and we talked about it a lot. And just the way people felt about it, the feelings. Some people didn't like it. Some people were like, I don't like having to read this stuff. Or some people, I loved it. And some people didn't think that's how they would be. Back to an awareness level, I think it shows, like, the characters. The author did a great job of writing real characters that you believe are real people, and they have emotion, they have personality, and they react to things. They insult each other, they bring each other down. You feel like there's a character, Piggy, and Piggy, you can tell that Piggy's just suffered his whole life with he's one of those people whose parents, or I think his parents died when he was a kid, and he was raised by his fucking grandmother or his aunt or something. And he's one of those kids that was raised to be real innocent, right? Like, he's almost like a mama's boy type of character. He's not super outgoing. He's almost crippled by his confidence, maybe by his raising. But he's also fat. That's why they call him Piggy. And he's just pretty much the victim the whole time. He's victimized by everybody, and he just wants to be good friends with the good character. What's his fucking name? Jack, I guess maybe is his name. I know Ralph. Is it Ralph? I guess it's Ralph. Yeah, Jack's that other character. Yeah, it's Ralph. But Ralph kind of shuns him, He never lets him be his bud, like his best friend, because Piggy's a dork, He's like a loser. And I think we can all relate to that a little bit. No spoiler alerts. Well, fuck it. Who gives a shit? They end up killing Piggy, man. Those boys end up rolling a boulder off a cliff and smashing his ass. He can't see shit because his glasses are gone. And they crush his ass with a boulder and fucking cave his head in and shit. He's a kid, dude. He's a child. And that's where you kind of get the loss of innocence. One of the themes of the book I remember for sure is loss of innocence. Man, after they kill Piggy, shit just goes off the rails. Like, they really separate into two different teams, and mainly just kind of one team, where Ralph is kind of on his own now, and the hunter, they just lose it all. They're like, we're gonna hunt, we're gonna kill, we're gonna be I don't know if they're gonna cannibalize him or whatever, but after the pig thing happens and they get the fucking thirst for blood and dancing around the fire, like, shit just kind of pops off after that. And then I remember reading the last 2 chapters at home when I was in 16, and I was just reading it. I never read anything like that before. I was just flipping through the pages like I was breathing heavy. I couldn't get through this book fast enough. And at the end, they get rescued. I remember that much. And they get rescued, and I remember a moment, they're like, some of them they're kind of putting their school uniforms back on and loading into this ship, and it's like they're looking at each other like the game is over now, and the veil of innocence has kind of been brought back on, because they see parents and they see adults, and it's like they're reminded of who they were, who they're supposed to be, maybe, like society-wise, they're children, school children. The school uniform is innocent, It kind of brings back the innocence. They're not running around naked, covered in dirt and around a fire anymore. They're like wearing their school uniform again, and it's almost like this ironic moment where the adults are like, "Oh, kids, come on," but they're all looking at each other like we were just murdering each other, and we killed some of each other. Like, some of us are dead, but now they're all going back under this veil of innocence and back to life, and it's like, oh man, like, I know when I was reading it, you almost get this feeling like you were there, and you get to see the children going in different groups with adults and loading on, and they're looking at each other like, oh shit, like, what did we do? Like, We totally lost track of what was going on. We got consumed into this thing, and we're just fucking killing each other. And I guess maybe what you hope for is to have a break like that in life today, maybe. I mean, it'd be nice if every now and again we got a little break like that, where we could, there was something to come in and break the perspective up so we could all step out and go, oh shit, maybe we all got consumed in this. Maybe we all got, you know, our brain space, our fucking, the way we feel about it kind of got taken away from, see, it's so hard to talk about. Like, our individuality, the way that we maybe could be aware for ourselves and have a singular way of seeing it and thinking, we got lost on it and somehow developed this group way of thinking and a hysteria of, we don't recognize what's really happening. We can't discern this moment and its own particular details from this other moment. Like, fucking a guy just voicing his opinion about, you know, maybe he wants to kneel or sit for an anthem. And people are like, oh, but because of this whole social conversation right now, in the midst of all this, we're going to create this whole dialogue where that is so wrong. Or, you know, this guy, just because he is of conservative background and he's coming to fill a Supreme Court justice seat, that because he's being nominated by this one guy that he's fucking evil and he's horrible, he must have ulterior motives. He must be a dick. And so now the people that I would like to align myself with, the progressives, and I don't like to use the word left because fuck that, dude, but like, people of progressive and humanitarian ways of thinking are the people that I like and that I want to align myself with. And those people in government right now, they're fucking eating this guy because of everything around him and the climate of the times, you know. They're not, and who knows, and my whole thing is, I don't know anything about the fucking guy. So if the people that I would normally look to and trust their viewpoints, if they would open themselves up and view this shit like it's a right now thing, and it's a momentary thing, it's a singular thing, it's a new decision, they're bringing the same climate to it that they're dealing with all the issues, and it's almost like it's along the climax, like along the climb of action. It's not like a new event for them. It's like picking it right up on the tension, on the apex of the tension with the last news event. You know, it's just picking up right where we left off with the old tension. And that doesn't make me trust anything, really. I don't trust that because that's not being aware. I know that. And not to get back to the politics thing, but damn, dude, maybe that's why I'm trying to get back to reading this book, is because maybe it'll help me think a little more clearly. The damn thing written in 1954, by the way, Lord of the Flies. Old book. This is Korean War literature I'm talking about right now, you know? This is pre-Vietnam in this bitch. By 10 years maybe, or more. But, yeah, man, I don't know. I got to get my mind back. I got to get it back for myself. And that's something I feel like I don't have right now. So I'm trying to read, trying to be active in different things. I'm trying to do stand-up all the time. I've done stand-up 8 times. Preface it with that. I've done stand-up 8 times in my life. I've only really bombed once. The 7th time I bombed. Doesn't mean I did great. But damn, dude, I got to get back on it. You know, it's what I want to do. I think everybody's got a goal. Everybody got to have a goal. And that's my thing. That's what I want, is to be a stand-up, and it's hard to admit that out loud sometimes, because it's like, I don't know if anybody else goes through this, but I feel like everybody wants, on the topic of greatness, we were talking about greatness pretty much this whole time. I want to be great, you know? I don't do anything to want to be just doing it, or to be okay, or to say I've done it, or to get some gratification. I really want to do it to be successful. I want to do it to be great, to look in the mirror and go, man, you did it. Like, you are doing it. You are good. Like, to look back on some moment, maybe where somebody got some video, or you filmed something, or you got some audio, or maybe you just got off stage and you were able to go, I know for sure that was great, that I was like a well-oiled machine out there, that I knew what I was doing, I knew beforehand what I wanted to do. I went up there, I knew what I was going to do, and I did it, and it was well achieved, and I was in control. And I mean, that's the stand-up thing. Like, that's what I want, and that's pretty much it, you know? If I can do that, then everything else will come. And I know that I've been seeing a lot of stand-up this year. I'm new to the stand-up thing, not as a fan, but to be in a comedy club and actually see stand-up live, I mean, that's still new to me. Maybe February 8th, or the first stand-up show I ever went to was Bo Burnham in my hometown. I think that's the only stand-up show I ever went to before I moved to Nashville, and I went to an open mic in February. It was Jessica Carter's open mic at Twin Kegs 2 in February, so it must have been around February 8th, and then the next month on March 8th or 9th, I guess it was March 8th, that was the first time I performed stand-up. And I went to a bunch of open mics in that month beforehand, and then on March 8th, I also started working at a comedy club. So, and I had never been to a comedy club and seen, like, shows from headlining comedians like that before. So it's still new to me, and I've learned fucking so much already. But it's time to put it into action, you know? I just got to get to work. Like I was talking about the way, I don't want to waste any more time. I don't want to waste another day, another minute or a moment of my life being inactive, because maybe my way, the thing I'm nervous about most in life, and this is maybe something most people can relate to, is just fucking living and dying, and that's it, you know? That I woke up and I fucking went to kindergarten, and I did the school, and then I graduated, and I worked in a grocery store for a while, and I went to school, and then I worked and did a job, and then I died, and that's it, you know? And then what if that's the story, you know? That gives me fucking anxiety, you know? To think about that could be me. That could be your boy's story. But I don't want to let it be, you know? Again, back to the difference, like, a lot of the people that I look up to that do the podcast and shit that I'm listening, I feel like they don't have the opportunity to talk about something like that, because they're already fucking famous. They're already rich. They've achieved their goals to a certain extent, you know? So they're not going to be able to say, what if I fucking live and die a failure, you know? Like, but that's where I am right now. And that's not to be all ho-hum and woe is me. It's really like, I had the choice. The decision is mine if I fail or if I don't. And I know that's true because, and I think anybody can know that that's true, because if anybody thinks about it, anytime you've tried, like, think about an aspiration you have, right? And all the time you've spent just aspiring but putting no effort into it, and it was just a dream. But, like, any time you put effort into that thing, maybe you've never put effort into fucking anything you want to be. Like, who knows? I don't know. But if you ever have, how much progress did you make the one time you put effort into it? Like, you sat down and you wrote the goals. You wrote a list of goals. You reread them. And then that day, maybe you got up and you went and did something on the list, or something that'll bring you closer to achieving something on the list. Like, think about how that made you feel, that successful feeling you got. Because I know I get that. Like, if I make any amount of... all right, so let's talk about this. I've done stand-up 8 times. I want to be a stand-up. I've done it 8 times. After the first time I did it, I was like, fuck. Like, the first time I did it, my first 2 jokes didn't do great at all. My last 3 jokes did great. And I ended up getting booked on a show. The first time I did stand-up, they were like, you know, the way that they did it is, at that mic, the host that puts it on, the joke that she liked the most, that made her laugh the most, they get put on a showcase. But that time in particular, there was another person there that had a showcase, and they needed a spot filled. So they were like, hey, the best 2 jokes are going to get spots on showcases. And me and this dude, Evan Norman, got put on these showcases. And I was so fucking happy. I was like, oh shit, that means that I don't suck. It's my first time doing it. I did it, and I didn't... there were 16 people there, and 2 of us and got on showcases, and 14 others didn't. And I know there were people on that open mic. And this isn't me going, oh, I'm a fucking good stand-up. I'm saying, like, there were people on that show that I see featuring at Zanies, that people that I've seen do shows that I know are better than me, that I know are way better, and they're good, great comedians right now. But that just showed me that I can fucking stand up next to them already, you know, if I want to try. On the flip side of that, time number 7, when I went up, this is at the same place, Twin Cakes 2. I performed at Twin Cakes 2 probably 3 times. The first time was my first ever time. The next time was that showcase. And then the next time was number 7 when I bombed. And I didn't prepare. I was like, oh, I've been doing well these first 6 times. It's going to be fine. I'll go up there and do it. And I went up there and just ate a bag of dicks. I sucked so bad. And I let everybody know I was going to suck. So, like, also showed me any given day at any time, especially right now when I'm just starting out, I could suck a huge bag of dicks and be horrible. Maybe the only reason that I did well the first time is because I put so much energy into caring about wanting to do well that I didn't do well up top. I didn't do well in the first 2 jokes. But yeah, I was like, I caught a little wave of energy and I wrote it out, and the ending jokes stood up a little bit, you know? So all that being said, it feels good to do well. And when you put in the effort is when you'll do well. If you phone it in, you'll phone it in. You'll fucking crash and burn. I learned that lesson already. But if you don't do it at all, you won't do it at all. Like, I learned from bombing, right? One of the things I think it did to me is, like, it's hard for me to get up on stage right now because, like, I don't think it's normal to go up on stage and bomb. So my brain right now is like, fucking don't go on stage. Like, my mind is, like, really keeping me from doing it. But that's no excuse, you know? That's mentality. That's a mental thing, and I created it by bombing. I can break it by going up and doing well. So that's really where I am with the stand-up right now. That's just your normal boy stand-up commentary right there. Who gives a fuck about that, really? But I forget, I got sidetracked on all that greatness bullshit. But, man, it just feels good to do well. And it's hard maybe if you have a tradition in your life of not putting effort into things maybe like I do, being lazy, and just not being like a type A kind of personality. That's pretty much me, you know? But excuses are fucking lame, you know? I got to get to work. Ain't nobody going to do it for me. And that's it, you know? That's pretty much the end of the story. Nobody wants to hear anybody bitch. Nobody wants to hear anybody complain, especially on a goddamn podcast. So maybe we'll wrap it there. We did an hour. That was pretty good. I got to do my laundry. So, shit, y'all. Episode test number 1 of Live from the Tracking Room. I did it myself. Let's be great, you know? Fucking talking about all that negative shit. I ran 6 miles yesterday. I'm doing episode 1 of the podcast right now. Maybe this means I can do something. Maybe this means, I ain't got a day off in 2 weeks. I'm at the comedy club every day. But when I do get a day off, let's review some of these bits, man. Maybe I'll go out and I'll do a mic, you know? Shit, y'all. Signing off, man. Peace.
I've been trying to be what you want me to. Give me some